Hey everybody, what's going on? Ever since I made the Unkillable Clan Boss Guide, I daily have gotten messages from numerous people saying I can't get the Unkillable team to work, what am I doing wrong? And I try to help as many people as I can with that. I know that there are a lot of you who have probably messaged me and not heard anything back. I just literally don't have time to message everybody back. So I thought what I would do is kind of put together a little one-stop shop pointing out all the things, all the most common problems that I run into, because there's even though it's a lot of different people, it's a few of the same things that I'm seeing over and over. So I figure maybe this will help us both. Maybe this will alleviate some of the direct messages for me, and I can kind of get back on top of things, and maybe give you a place to stop where you don't have to wait on me to be able to answer you. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. The number one thing that is usually wrong with people's clan boss teams, with their Unkillable clan boss teams, is the speeds. That is the thing that I run into most commonly. I think despite me saying in the original video, these are the speeds, and these are the small ranges you want to stay within, people want to deviate from that a lot. I get a lot of man-eaters that are not 191 and 192, and that's the part of it that's non-negotiable. That needs to be what speed they are. So you don't have to hit a certain health or defense threshold. You don't need accuracy. You don't need any other stat but speed on these guys. As you can see, they're both wearing incomplete sets, and I actually had to get a helmet on him that wasn't leveled up because he had too much HP, because the slower man-eater especially needs to be able to die. That is where you'll run into issues on Spirit Affinity, for example. If he gets hit, he's going to take a shot or two early on, and with block revive up. If he doesn't die and he catches a slow debuff on Spirit Affinity, the run's over, right? So that's why he's not wearing armor. That's why the helmet's not leveled up, because I don't want him to be tanky. I need him to die when it's time for him to die. So the speeds on the man-eaters have to be right, and then your Painkeeper, she can't be too fast, right? Mine is a 196, so she goes. She actually goes second in my run, but she's 196, my Draco's 199. If my Draco's 199 and my Painkeeper's 198, she may steal a turn, right? She does give herself turn meter. It has never been a problem for me with the speeds that I'm running, okay? 196 for Painkeeper, 199 for Draco. She has not once ever gotten out of rotation that way. So I don't know the exact numbers to where everything needs to be to stay perfect, but I can tell you that with her at 196 and Draco at 199, I've never seen them get out of rotation. My Lightsworn is 194. Lightsworn, I think, is probably Lightsworn / Crimson Helm is probably the one you've got the most wiggle room, because he really does just need to be faster than the faster man-eater and slower than Painkeeper. Beyond that, it doesn't really matter, right? It's not too nitpicky there. And then, of course, your damage dealer. I believe anything under 205 is safe. So sometimes I'll see people with their Occult Brawler or something at like 220, 230. If he's 205 or over, I think that's going to be wrong. I think 204 and under is what you need to be shooting for. So, like I said, my Draco's at 199, and literally, I've been running this comp for months now. Not once have they ever gotten out of rotation. So, go in and double check your speeds, and make sure that things are in the right order, right? That your Painkeeper's not 1 point behind your damage dealer, for example. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but I can tell you that generally when I say go adjust your speeds, lose a couple of speed points on Painkeeper, lose a couple speed points here, they come back to me often and go, that seems to have done it. So just keep the speeds in mind, right? You don't want to crowd your Painkeeper too close to your damage dealer. Your man-eaters have to be 191, 192. Keep those things in mind when you're trying to diagnose what it is about your team that's not working. So that's number one. That's the most common thing. Number two, the second most common thing is going to be the Masteries. There's usually something in the Masteries that is screwing you guys up, okay? So let's go in and talk about these real quick. On the offense tree, you want to get down to War Master or Giant Slayer. I was going to say Crimson Slayer for some reason. Giant Slayer, I have on Lightsworn. Everybody else has War Master. Now, that's pretty much it. I used to have this on a few of them. This was screwing me up, especially with my man-eater that needs to die, because he was leeching a little bit of health, which was keeping him in the fight so that whenever it was time for him to die on Spirit Affinity, he wouldn't die, he'd catch that slow debuff. And that's kind of going to go into the next point. So I guess I'll just make them all 1 point. And I touched on it with the speed thing. If you're having trouble on Spirit Affinity, that's why. It's because they're too tanky. Yeah, a lot of people are under the impression that Spirit Affinity is just the kryptonite for this comp. That is not the case. What I've done is I removed any lifesteal masteries and I made them as squishy as possible, and now it runs on Spirit Affinity just like it runs on Void. Literally, no issues. Not once do I have a problem anymore. It's the same exact thing now, no matter what the affinity is. And the trick to that was to making them less tanky, right? And removing any lifesteal mastery that they had. So, bare minimum on these guys, okay? Get down to War Master, get down to Giant Slayer, and then over here, you have to make sure that you're avoiding things like this. 30% chance of increasing turn meter by 10% when a debuff cast by this champion. Or over here, where is it? Is it here? Yeah, a 30% when a buff cast. These you have to make sure that you're not hitting, because that's going to screw up your rotation, right? If they start getting bonus turn meter out of nowhere, it's going to put them out of rotation. Down here, Cycle of Magic, 5% chance of decreasing the cooldown. This will also screw you up. It's only 5%, so it's not going to happen all the time, but it will happen in a long clan boss fight, and if it happens, it's going to throw your whole rotation out of order. The reason you're doing the setup the way you're doing it at the beginning of the fight is because you need your skills to be used in a particular order for the rest of the fight. So someone randomly gets a cooldown bump, it's going to totally throw off the rotation, and the run's going to end early, right? Now, as far as the rest of it, I don't think there's anything else that's really a problem. I don't know that I would do this one. I don't think speed ticks from the time that someone dies and revives from the buff. But if it ticks at all, and this is on someone else on the team, it could potentially screw them up. So like I said, bare minimum here, guys. Get your accuracy bumps, get your Giant Slayer / War Master, and avoid all the other stuff. You don't need any other stuff for this. And you know, maybe when the nerf comes, and then we could just hit auto and go with it. Then maybe we can see about making them tankier and maybe getting some use out of them in other places. But for now, if you're just using them in clan boss, just hit your speeds, get your accuracy on your damage dealer, and then get your masteries done bare minimum. Okay, just keep an eye on your masters. Make sure you're reading what masters you're putting on, and if it's anything that's going to affect turn meter or masteries, it's going to screw your run up. Okay, and then again, don't make them tanky. That was going to be 0.3, but I realized I could just mash it into 1 point. So. As low health and defense as possible. Alright, so speed and then masteries / they're too tanky for Spirit Affinity, okay? Next most common thing is the setup. The actual setup once you start the run is wrong. So I'm going to put up a graphic now and we're going to talk about it. Anything, well, you heard it here. The moment I became a man. Back to the video, folks. That's not specified here. Turn 1, just use A1. I'm not turn 1, I'm sorry, A1. So for example, on your first turn, your damage dealer can do whatever. Okay, so Occult Brawler, Draco, for example, I throw up poisons first with Draco. After that, everyone A1s, and then your slower Maneater, the Maneater that goes second, use A3. Okay? Then the clan boss is gonna go. The next turn, with your damage dealer, do whatever you like. For me, it's Draco. I use his defense down and weaken skill. And then everyone else just A1s on turn 2. No one does anything special, okay? He's gonna attack again. Turn 3, A1, everybody. The Maneater that goes first, then you're gonna A3, okay? Then your next Maneater, A1. He's gonna hit again. Now you're on turn 4. Now Painkeeper and Lightsworn / Crimson Helm need to use their A3, and then you can hit auto, and then you should be good. The only way you won't be good now, assuming you've checked everything else, is if you're on Spirit Affinity and your Maneater's too tanky. Other than that, everything should be fine if you've done everything else correctly. So, really double check your setup, print screen this, and pull it up when you're in your run, and make sure that you're doing everything in order, right? Because obviously it's very important. If you do one thing wrong, the run's over. So take your time, set it up, and then you can start to figure out how long you can let it run, okay? Now, those are like the main points. Those are the main things that I come across and and hopefully it helps you guys go and diagnose what your problem is. A couple of honorable mentions, and it sounds a little silly, but it happens more often than you might think. People will be hitting Nightmare. It's the guide that I put out is an Ultra Nightmare Unkillable team, which means it's only going to work in Ultra Nightmare. So if you're hitting Nightmare, sometimes people are hitting Nightmare because they didn't know that they couldn't, and sometimes they're hitting Nightmare because they just weren't paying attention. It's happened both ways, and again, it's happened more often than you might think. So make sure you're doing this on Nightmare. I'm sorry, Ultra Nightmare. If you're doing it on Nightmare, it's not going to work. Now, I have not tested this personally, but I've been told by quite a few people this will work on Nightmare if you just drop everybody's speed by 20. So if you play around in the 170s rather than the 190s, I'm told this works on Nightmare. Again, I have not tested it. But if you don't want to do Ultra Nightmare, or you have a crazy amount of these champs and want to do it on both, build the teams for both. But make sure you're doing this on Ultra Nightmare, because that's what it's for. The other honorable mention is, it is possible, maybe you've used the set without thinking about it, that is screwing your runs up. So for example, a frenzy set, every time when you start losing HP, you get turn meter for it. That's going to screw your rotations up for sure. A reflex set is going to screw your rotations up because again, it's anything that affects cooldowns. You need your cooldowns to be exactly the way you've set them up. So make sure that your set is not interfering with your run. You know, retaliation on Painkeeper might be a problem. You know what I mean? If she's revenging and giving herself that extra turn meter, could be a problem. And then of course, I feel like this one goes without saying, but I guess we'll do another honorable mention. I don't know why I went there. Make sure you're skilled up. You guys got to be skilled up. Your Maneater A3s have to be skilled up. And then Lightsworn, Painkeeper, Crimson Helm, they all have to be skilled up, right? So make sure you're putting books into these guys before you're trying to use them in here, because their cooldowns have to be a certain way, right? So those are the honorable mentions and all the most common problems I see. So hopefully this kind of gives you a one-stop shop, you know, where you don't have to wait on me to answer you, because like I said, I have no way to answer everybody. I'm gonna be working this week to kind of rebuild my Discord. It's gonna kind of filter you through a process when you join and put you, like if you want an account rework, it's gonna put you in a channel for that, where I can kind of have everybody being organized into where they want and all that, so that I can go in and worry more about getting with people and getting the content made and not feel so bogged down by trying to keep everything organized and make sure I have everybody separated. So I'm going to be spending the week doing that with my Discord. Hopefully by the end of the week it's done, and the system will be a little bit better for what it is I'm trying to do moving forward. But again, if you've messaged me and I have not gotten back to you, do not take it personally. There's no way for me to answer everybody that's messaging me right now. So that's it. I hope that this guys helps you. If you've had a problem with your Unkillable team that I did not talk about and you have figured out how to solve it, or you have not solved it yet. If there's a problem, I guess you wouldn't know if you hadn't solved it yet. Either way, if there's a problem that I have not talked about here, drop it below. If there's any problems that you've solved or helped someone solve that I did not talk about here, drop them below. The more information here, the better for everybody, myself included. So that's it. Hopefully this helps. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.